very much, Catherine Cowdery. All right, we all know that it is a challenge to educate a workforce scientifically and technologically in order to compete in the world. But we have a guest now who does just that on a global scale. Dr. Jean de Gunzburg, I beg your pardon, he is the president of World ORT. Dr. Gunzburg, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Talk, just to give people an idea, what exactly is World ORT and what's its focus?
Okay, ORT is an organization that was founded 130 years ago, and it's based on giving people education and training so that they're able to find jobs. We've been doing that since 1880, originally in Russia, Eastern Europe, Western Europe, Latin America, and even in Africa. And this is to give people skills to be able to find jobs and then become self-sufficient for themselves and their families.
What about the scale right now, the scale of the World ORT effort? How many students are you interacting with?
Worldwide, about 300,000 students every year, and we've operated cumulatively in about 100 different countries. Today, about 56 countries in which we have programs. It's an organization which is a federative organization, so we have affiliate organizations in about 32 different countries, and then there are programs that we run together with international organizations such as the UNESCO and USAID and World Bank, etc., in developing countries. Altogether, it's about 50 countries together.
What is the most pressing need right now when you look at the countries in which you operate? Is it funding? Is it getting people to enroll? Is it all of these things?
Easy to get people to enroll. It's really a matter of funding. The more funding we can get, the more programs we can execute. So, there are two types of programs. There are those programs for which there are tenders which come out, and therefore we submit to those tenders and we operate them, and part of the funding gets from the tenders and part of the operating costs come from partners such as corporate entities that want to do that. And then there are other programs which are basically schools that either we run or that we intervene in, and there it's basically fundraising from private donors.
Now, Dr. Gunzburg, you have a background as a cell microbiologist, so you bring a certain technical and scientific perspective to your work. What is the level of scientific and technological education? Are schools around the world really preparing students for the future?
I think they are. At least what we do, our schools are secondary schools. We have a couple of colleges, and basically what we do is on top of the level of general education that we give our students, which is of the best quality possible, we then give them a layer of science and technological education so that they can go and find jobs. So it's most often it trains them to go then on to college and university and get degrees as technicians or engineers who are able to operate in fields that, used to be agriculture and making garments, and today it's electronics and information technology and mechatronics and such things, and even biotechnology today.
All right, we're going to continue the conversation. We have more with Dr. Jean de Gunzburg. He is the president of World ORT. We're going to find out what is going on in Africa and in educating illiterate populations. This is Taking Stock on Bloomberg, Pimm Fox 11 at Bloomberg.net. If you wish to ask Dr. Gunzburg a question. Welcome. This is Taking Stock. I am speaking to Dr. Jean de Gunzburg. He is the president of World ORT. We're talking about educating people all over the world, giving them technological skills so that they can actually go and get jobs. Dr. Gunzburg, talk, if you can, about what are the biggest challenges? Are they signing up partners? Because I know that you partner with large corporations as well as other NGOs such as UNESCO.
I think our biggest challenge is getting people to understand what we do. A lot of people have heard of ORT because their mother or their grandmother contributed to it or was a member. ORT, in fact, is a worldwide organization. We operate from the tip of Latin America to Eastern Europe, going through Western Europe, Northern America, and even Africa and India. So it's a worldwide organization which is based on one thing, education. So depending on the country where we are, it takes different ways, shapes, and forms. If we're doing it in Africa, it's a lot of alphabetization. It's teaching people basic skills of how to use computers, information technology, to be able to do skills that they haven't had before.
Does that also just mean introducing them to the skills they need, let's say, to run a small business?
It can be that. It can also be social work, such as people who are single mothers because their husbands have died of AIDS or other things like that. It's giving them the skills to be able to find jobs to support their families. It's also a lot about empowering people so that they'll be able to actually be independent and care for their own families.
Talk about the relationships that you have, because I know that Coca-Cola, Exxon, Citigroup, I mean, you've worked with these multinational corporations. What role do they play?
Well, they fund us. They fund us to enable us to execute programs in countries of need. A lot of it is done in developing countries, a lot of it in Africa, but in some other countries too. Now, we have other programs that we run in developed countries or Eastern Europe countries where we intervene in schools. A lot of them are Jewish schools, and where we actually either run the schools completely or we intervene at the level of certain programs in schools, usually giving science and technology education so that the kids get those are able either to go and find jobs after they graduate from the high schools or go into university and become technicians, engineers, scientists, etc.
All right, but make the point, this is a non-sectarian organization. This is all over the world, and it's really just about educating people wherever they need it.
Absolutely. We're non-political, non-religious. We're a secular organization which has been founded by Jews and operates in many, many countries, and therefore wherever there is a need, we operate.
Last question for you. In facing these challenges right now, are you seeing a greater awareness for these basic skills, or is this something that still requires a lot of education on the part of trying to get donors, trying to get corporations?
I think it does. The awareness that such a thing does exist is not sufficiently out there. And when people understand the kinds of programs that we do, yes, they do want to contribute. So the challenge is getting the word out there, showing people what we do, how we change people's lives. I mean, we hear stories about people who, at a very formative age, 15, 16, 19, have gone through an ORT program. That has enabled them to find their first job, and then those people go on to whatever. Some have formed corporations, some have just stayed in the work that they were, but it has always changed their lives, and this is the fantastic story of ORT.
All right, I want to thank you very much. The president of World ORT, Dr. Jean de Gunzburg. Thank you very much for joining us. This portion of Bloomberg Taking Stock is brought to you by Cap.